We're live.
We're live like that. Just like
We're
that.
live on Channel
I have
5.
a certain amount of faked energy, despite the fact that I'm very, very tired.
Very
whatever
tired.
reason.
Very tired for
Fix
whatever
this camera
reason.
a little bit. That's not better at all.
Turn
That's
this volume all the way
that's the
down
top
so I
of my
can't
head.
hear myself.
That's the top of my head. All right.
You don't need the top of your head, bud.
Are you sure? It's the best part of my head.
I know that sometimes it feels that way, but
So,
We're live.
oh Jesus.
We live?
this is it.
There we go. Now we've
This
got
is it.
things.
We're doing
This
this
is
thing
it.
that you wanted. I'm
Yes,
here.
we are doing the thing that I wanted. I'm just trying to watch us doing the thing that I wanted. There it is.
Mm.
It's important to me to watch it for the 28% of my phone life that I have here. Hey everybody, and by everybody I mean there's really nobody here yet, but this will be recorded and saved. So hey everybody, for those people when they do get here, and when you do get a chance to watch this, whenever that may be.
What was that, Jeff? What kind?
Mute your phone, Jeff. Fucking genius. What are you new? Hey, welcome. We're the Tavern Boys, and we're gonna we're two of the Tavern Boys. Two of
The best tavern boys.
the
We're
best
the DMs.
Tavern Boys.
The DMs on the tavern.
Yes, we are. At least the
Randall
reoccurring
DMs some
DMs.
things. Mitch just DMs some things. It's not special anymore.
Yeah,
I've taken away the specialness away. The only one is
was
Ryan.
cool
Ryan
once.
stays pure.
Yeah. It used to be cool. Now it's just fucking whatever.
So so we're here. We're Torchlit
here.
Tavern. Normally play D&D. We will not be playing D&D today. What are we doing today, Jeff? What was this thing that you got me online on a Wednesday for?
Online on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
We're here to do the to get on the hype train. That's what we're doing. We're getting on the hype train.
Oh, I love the hype train.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Hold on, let me get my dice. Let me get my dice. I need dice, right?
Definitely don't. You don't need dice.
What?
Put your dice away.
What?
Put your dice away. That's right. This right here is Torchlit, no dice. That's what this show is going to be called. That's what we're doing. Torchlit, no dice.
No dice. Torchlit, no dice. No dice. I hate it.
I love it.
I don't know what to do without dice.
I love it. I love it. No dice. All right, welcome everybody to No Dice. Yes, names in the moment. I love it so much. Embrace the chaos with me, your host and your friendly DM for the Twitch normally, Jeff, and our guest this week, which I'm sure he'll reoccur because there's not enough of us for me to just get a bunch of guests.
Yeah, I don't even know if you can call me
some outside people. We'll see.
Am I a guest, or am I just a guest for this? I'm a guest on this new show thing.
In this instance, right here, right now, you're a guest.
Okay.
Normally, I wouldn't call you a guest, but in this instance, you are.
Yeah, I'm family. If I walk into your house and eat your cheese, that's just whatever.
I mean, that is true. That is true. And vice versa. Though you've got a new one, so I don't know where you're at. You're hiding from me for now.
For now, yeah. I was trying to get situated, get my grill, because I got to be able to I want to throw my party, which might be just before Halloween. By the way,
grills and that doesn't go out to all you listeners. That one's just for us.
I mean, I'd like to, but
She's just. I don't think his new house is that big. All right. Just kidding. It's only like 3 of you, but
the best, the ones I want.
Mm-hmm.
So the diehards, they deserve a burger.
Hell yeah, they do. Come on down. I'll get you a burger. So, are you watching the stream?
Yeah,
is yours restarting all the time? Because mine is.
Mine is no. It's going.
Okay, then it's just my phone.
I'm not listening to the stream, so I can only assume our sound is correct. Let me go ahead and double check that. Oh yeah, no. Not only that, I'm only a few seconds behind. So yeah, cool. No, we're good. Everything's good. Right.
Just double checking. It's just my phone then. Anywho's, so here on No Dice, the big plan, this show that I've discussed leading up to this, I talked about it last week on the stream. I've shouted it out here and there. Hopefully we had a couple people. Probably not. This is probably going to be a slow one because what we didn't do? We didn't hype it up on the social media. like
Mhm.
we really should have, like I planned to. Oh well, next week, next
Social
time.
media is a Torchlit weak point.
Yes.
We recently did a recording though with someone who I plan on hitting up to see what they know about such things.
Hopefully they can help us out because, oh, Lord knows we need it.
Yeah, I think it's just there's no interest in it in this group, which is a shame because it's kind of important if you're going to try to do anything internet based.
I mean, it feels like there's some interest, but the problem is just like we're just not good at it. You know what I'm saying? We're just not good at staying on top of it. And that's the bottom line. Because Stone
I
Cold
like to
says
put
so.
it on the listeners to share and everything, and then I'll blame them. Share me more. Why aren't you doing my job for me?
Why aren't you doing our job for us?
Yeah.
Come on, people.
Come on, I thought you loved us.
Fucking
Anyway,
rude guys. So
love our
anywho,
listeners. Do not do more for us.
yeah, no, you're doing great.
Yeah.
You do not have to do anything else. We appreciate the living hell out of you. And we're gonna be better about letting people know about stuff like this. We really are. We've got all our different social media, and I'm gonna work hard on the ones that I'm controlling at this stage, which at this point is this to a certain extent,
Mhm.
and for TikTok. And I think we're all doing our part.
Our
we
amazing
all have
video
busy
mediums.
lives. But with that being said, the whole point of this Torchlit No Dice, is that I want to discuss with you, my friend, my DM, my brother in arms. I want to discuss with you the the end of last campaign, because we did in our podcast, which if you're not watching or not listening, go listen to our podcast. That's at Torchlit Tavern.
Binge
Pretty
the
much
whole thing.
anywhere.
136 episodes. It won't take you too long. Sure.
I mean, you could start at episode 100. Like, it's really start there.
No joke. We have a recap at 100 to give you an update. If you like to go a little bit further, go back to 50. I wouldn't go much past 50 just because we taught ourselves this entire medium from scratch. Like, we just got into it for love of the game. We literally loved the game, and also just wanted to do this, and we taught ourselves from the ground up. So it shows in the early episodes.
Definitely.
We learned a lot, and I think over the course of this show, I'm very proud of the growth that you see from episode 1 to 136. It's amazing.
Yeah, honestly, really though, the growth in just our process, what the thing we produced, the growth in our characters. I think everything about it is really great, and that's one of the reasons I'm very excited about. What's next? Like, obviously, if you're coming in as a new listener, you're not going to be super impressed. If you like podcasts and you started episode 1, you'll be like, ugh, what's this?
Yeah,
even if you started
even
if you started episode 50, you might feel that way.
No. How dare you? We start to compete there. That's when we show up.
But regardless of that, I'm personally proud of it. Something that me and a couple of the boys did with, like, no backing, no instruction, and we've made. And I'm very excited to have finished a campaign. This is literally my first campaign that has that's a finish point. Like, I've been to some that it was like, I've been in some that we just decided we were done with.
Yeah, I've been in my share of those.
Where it wasn't really an end, but it was like, well,
fizzles out more than it definitively tells the story of the characters, right?
Of course, because I mean, like, when you play D&D, you don't always have a definitive story of the characters. You just
you don't need it. Even though I put our whole spiel as like, we tell a narrative story, we focus on narrative driven storytelling and blah blah blah. You don't need that shit to play D&D. I fully can enjoy the chaos of just coming into a game, rolling dice, and living this like screenshot of some psychopath that you've made, or even not, like any character you make. It doesn't need to go anywhere. You can have all the fun in the world that way. In fact, it is a low stress joy to just do that. It's one of the reasons why adventurers leagues do so well. When you go to your local game store and you just drop in, nobody knows you. You don't have a story. Nobody knows you.
Right. You're not here to tell some epic tale of this hero, and the people who are like, well, you're not necessarily in the right place. But
yeah,
you don't always have to be in the in the place to be trying to tell some epic tale or craft this wonderful story, especially since that's something that you kind of really got to work out with somebody else, right?
Yeah, there's a certain amount of trust and teamwork that goes into actually completing the tale or whatever. And I think that's one of the things that I was very happy with our group, that it sort of ended up going in that direction. And we all kind of we understood the assignment. What's that TikTok going around?
Yeah, we understood the assignment.
Yeah.
We sure did, and that was exciting. Like I said, I've definitely been in games where I don't know where I was going as the character, and like I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't always know where I was going as this character, but I knew that it was going somewhere. And as opposed to some other games that I've been in, I didn't always know, and you really have to rely on you know, like you said, that relationship between you and the DM to be like, okay, are you gonna take me somewhere, or are we just gonna adventure forever? Because I'm kind of okay with either.
Yeah, it's important that you both know it, because like
Yeah.
I've when I first started to DM, I had this idea that everything needs to tell a story, and even to this day, I get frustrated if it doesn't go somewhere when I'm DMing. And I have to like either reestablish that that's not the point of this. But typically, if
Right.
you leave me to DM, I'm gonna try to lead it down a specific path. You don't have to. I'm gonna go with whatever the players like, or I
Yeah.
will at least cater to what the players like along that path,
Yeah, of
which is
course.
something that I had to learn how to do as we go. But
That can be difficult. Speaking as a
yeah,
DM, it can be difficult because one, who knows what they really want? You know, you get in there and they say they want this,
that's
and
true.
then it turns out that that's
It's like
not
it's
what they
like
want at all.
parenting.
Yeah.
It's like parenting. You're leading a toddler. They don't know what they want yet till you show it to them.
Yeah, but then sometimes you don't know you're showing it to them. You
You
know.
know, and to be fair, DM doesn't always know what he wants. I
Yeah.
wanted to tell
Oh
this
yeah.
epic story of high fantasy, and what I got was Rick and Morty, and fucking A, was it great? I need more of that.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely. It was definitely closer to Rick and Morty than High Fantasy, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, no, ours. I think we told the line. Speaking of which,
Yeah.
why don't you? We're just riffing. You got questions? You wanted to?
We are riffing, but I think this riffing is really positive. We're riffing in a real positive direction. This is the kind of stuff I want No Dice to be about. So, but let's get into it a little bit more. So, as we did just finish our our campaign, as it is now over and done with, um, my first question is, as we wrapped up, like normally in a campaign that's not recorded, you can talk to your friends about it and be like, here's all the things. And obviously when you're DMing, as I know, as you know, you built a whole world, you have all these things. Like tell me some of the things that like you you sort of want to put in the end that weren't important enough to be on recording.
Oh, you want to talk about stuff that hit the cutting room floors as a dungeon
Yeah.
master for this
Yeah.
for this last campaign?
For this last campaign, like
Oh,
for the end of the campaign, you know? Even
okay,
throughout, honestly, tell me some of the things that didn't plan out the way you expected them to.
sure. I mean, there's like I just said, you tailor things to what your players want, right? Like, and
Yep.
I had a lot of ideas about various NPCs that probably didn't come across because it just didn't have a place with your group.
Yeah.
Like when I built Griffinport was an experiment I did a long time ago. It's one of the reasons why it feels, if you listen, one of the things that the players liked about my game that I heard and a few of the listeners have said is that Griffinport felt like it was a pretty living, breathing city because I tried to take it from that perspective. I did my best to write like my version of a campaign setting when I built the city of Griffinport. I dialed in on one town and built up a little bit of history around it. Did this. I made factions, and then I gave each of the factions little core NPCs. And the intent was it was a starting point in my campaign for just about any campaign would start in Griffinport. And if they stayed there, great. If they didn't, they could move on. But it gave me instantly a very uh, dynamic setting with dynamic NPCs that they can interact with, and I can immediately figure out what the players liked. Oh, if they go and investigate the Thieves Guild, there's thieves for them to go talk to, and the characters of Mullion and Darius and Linda, they've always been there. I randomly rolled them as NPCs back in 3rd edition. That's how these characters are, 3.5 probably to be more accurate. And the first time I ran it was for a group of friends and it was just their staging point. It was the city of Griffinport wasn't important. There was the concept that if they got into any of the politics or any of the factions, they could get into some of the things that you guys got into in the campaign, but it wasn't the campaign. I was just letting them do adventures from it. It was just an episodic, go do a dungeon crawl, come back, because I wasn't worried about any ongoing story. And there were other adventuring parties, was something that probably ended up on the cutting room floor. The only adventuring party that the group ended up dealing with was the Knights of Kenoria, which was the orc and goblin one from early on that Dylan butted heads really hard with, that nearly killed him a couple times. But there was also supposed to be another group of like all halflings and gnomes, and like one dwarf was the tallest one. There was like the short guys. and then there was another adventuring party, and I kind of wanted to bring them in early on as sort of this 3 different adventuring parties that all demonstrated the problem with adventurers, and you hear it echoed in people like Granlin early on when she derisively refers to adventurers the first time they run into the Knights of Kenoria, and the point was to sort of make a joke about the adventurer mentality of like attack, kill, loot, get experience, the murder hobo D&D joke. Those even the good aligned party that you guys could have run into was going to demonstrate some toxic traits. They could have been allies, but they were still going to be bad guys. There wasn't a lot of time, and you guys got involved in so many different factions that I didn't need to add another bevy of NPCs to the group. You guys already had you guys got interested in the Watch. You guys got interested in the Thieves Guild. You got interested in the courts, and so like that was that didn't need to add more chaos to the story that started to unfold.
Absolutely, yes. Lie, cheat, steal, kill. Those are definitely the core tenets of the murder hobo life.
Yeah, and it's all about loot. It's about getting the experience. It's about beating people to the treasure. And that was like the first thing that everybody dealt with, right? Was the Knights of Kenoria trying to beat them there. And because you're outside the city, anything goes. And that was like the first conflict that everyone ran into in the show. Was that when they showed up to get the treasure, they didn't even have to fight anything, but they ran into another adventuring party that was like, you'll have to fight us. Right. And honestly, I didn't think of it until now. It set the tone of the show that that behavior was not what everybody wanted to deal with.
Things that inadvertently set the tone of a whole campaign. Speaking as both a player and a DM, that stuff happens. Sometimes you're like, oh, this campaign's going to be about this, and it's like, nope. Turns out this campaign's about the kindness of strangers.
Done that. Yeah.
I didn't mean to do that.
So many campaigns that go, well, that's a weird theme that we're going to be doing now, apparently.
Yeah. Okay.
I tried to not, and it's still coming up,
Yeah.
Sometimes it just takes a character, like one character, right? Like Katie in your Twitch stream.
Yeah.
This is going to be about fatherhood or raising a kid. It's like, what the fuck? Just because of one character choice,
One character choice, and it just became about... It's like not even like a found family thing. That one's a real, like, this one is about
adoptive parenting.
Yeah.
And the conflict of parenting styles, which is a wild thing that's going on.
That's a thing. It's a lot of fun to play through it with you guys, but definitely like not a direction I was trying to or even thought we were going to kind of go. And like, that's it. That's DMing, like.
Yeah. It's once again, it's your players seem interested in that. How do we play it out?
Right. How do we make it into something that's fun?
Yeah. How do we make that fun and therapeutic in D&D's weird way? Sometimes it's just weirdly like
we could have
we're gonna delve into people's thought process about something that they wouldn't have thought about anyway.
Let's get into their psyches. We could have a whole episode that involves D&D in relation to mental health and how it can be both positive and negative. But
I have an idea
that's
for next campaign that I'll tell you. Maybe here. I don't know. We'll come back to it.
we'll come back to that. Oh, hold on to it.
I told Ryan, and he got kind of excited by it. So
Oh, hold
it
on
might
to
be a
that.
thing
Hold
that
on
I
to that.
do.
We're still wrapping up talking about the last campaign. This one we
It's
just
over.
finished.
It's dead to me. I'm a DM. I move on.
Moving
I'm
on.
dating a
Moving
new and
on.
younger campaign.
Hey, listen. I also am a DM.
That campaign is old and wrinkly, and it no longer services me the way I like. I'm moving on.
Listen, I'm also a DM as well as a character, a player, and I understand that. Trust me, I do. But I also know that you just can't ever leave anything behind. You can't. You, you're like newer, shinier. But wait, I also really like some of the
Well,
way this one
that's why you just do it in the
moves.
same campaign world. You just fucking take it with you. You just.
So tell me.
I bought those titties. I'm gonna put them on the new ride. That's awful.
That's our aesthetic. Awful.
Awful. Yeah.
So tell me. Anyways, how you do it? We got to the epilogue. We got everything wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but tell me what you didn't wrap up. What were the things that you were like?
Full of little things that bothered the shit out of me.
Yes, I know everybody has them.
Well, here's one. Because of the way the combat played out and boiled down, you guys did not kill a single bad guy. You did not beat a single one of your boss people, even Krieg, who I intended you to actually finish off. But at the moment when like it would have probably ended, even Grim left. I thought that you were gonna like throw some hands last minute because it wouldn't have taken long because you guys had really messed him up, especially with Granlin helping you out.
Mm-hmm.
Krieg is alive, like canonically. Like
Yeah.
I think I may have thrown in some stuff just to wrap it up because I think I stated that Molian would have finished him off, but no one else would have. So it had to be Molian because there's no other character on the field who was either capable or willing to do something
or
like
wanted
that.
to do it. Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Maybe Granlin just because he's annoying, but like not. But Granlin's still a little bit too nice for that.
I just don't see Granlin killing anybody in that way. You know, like I think that Krieg would make her.
Yeah,
by, like
he'd
not
push
quitting.
her. Yeah, he'd push her for sure.
But yeah, like that. So that was like in the end, I was like, oh my god, like that final battle. Ryan pointed it out. Was like nothing got handled. You guys just took off, and we dealt with it, and it was just a good ending to the story, you know, because the goals were accomplished.
Yeah,
you know.
No, absolutely. I honestly, leading up to that, I thought to myself, like, if there's a version of this where like obviously way leading up to it, not like a couple episodes before, but like way leading up to it, I was thinking to myself, there's a version of this where I can avoid conflict altogether. Mm-hmm. Like that's not my goal as a character.
Yeah.
Conflict is not what I want out of this. What I want is resolution. And if resolution can be achieved without doing anything, like 100%. Like if I could have just been like, all right, I'm gonna take this ship, fly it through that sky hole, and we're done.
Yeah.
Like if I could have done that, if I'd have thought that was something that was possible, I probably would have pushed real hard.
And I nudged a little bit with like NPCs, Avil, who just pointed out to Ryan that you don't have to fight. Like the goal was to do X, and every once in a while it's good to remind your PCs that they have a goal because D&D tends to get people to think I have to make the other things go to 0 HP, and that's the only goal because that's how you win. That's how you get the XP. But, and honestly, playing D&D that way is, I mean, everybody likes the tactical aspect of Dungeons & Dragons. It's one of the things it does very well. But if you're telling that sort of narrative story, it's important to remember that you don't have to do that, like, at all. You know, like.
And I mean, speaking of tactical elements, I think that is.
Sorry.
Speaking of tactical elements, I think that is a tactical element in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like, I think the idea of, like, what I think makes D&D great is that it really leaves you open to solve problems in whatever way you find the best. Like,
Mhm.
no matter what, even if your DM goes into it like there is only one way to solve this. Speaking as somebody who's played a decent
Mhm.
amount and DM'd a little,
Yeah,
like,
no,
you're
there's
wrong.
always another way.
You're wrong. There's always
There's
another way.
always
Some
another
guy's
way.
gonna do something, and you're gonna be like,
Yeah.
"Fuck, that also works, I guess."
Yeah,
Shit.
yeah, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you like this door's magically shut. You can't blow it up. Well, it's all right. Well, I'll dig under it. All right. Well,
Yeah, I guess you can just turn the whole wall next to it to mud. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can
okay.
do
Yeah. Sure.
that.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it happens all the time, and it's infuriating as a dungeon master, especially because that other way that you thought will like invalidate some other thing that down the road that you did didn't even think that it would. Like
Well, and then it also sets a tone, right? It sets a scene. It sets a precedent. That's maybe
yeah.
the biggest one. Every action that a player does
You
sets a
guys were supposed to
precedent.
get jumped when you went through this door. Now you've gone all the way around through a back entrance, so I guess you guys have the surprise round. That wasn't what I intended, you know?
Right. And then it's like I say, it sets this precedent of being like, okay, I did it once, now I can try it again. And like you
Mhm.
have to as a DM be like, okay, do
Yeah.
I let this happen again? Do I plan for this? Is it logical to plan for this? Like in this instance of
Yeah.
like, can I turn this mud to
It's one of
this wall to
those
mud? It's like,
it,
okay,
it's one of those lovely world building questions you have to ask yourself as a DM. Like, how common is magic? Do people think about that as a response to a locked door? Because if it is common and every Joe Schmo has the potential to learn a magic spell, then you start to get a lot of like, oh no, no, no. People just have ways to cancel that. Like, you can do
right,
that. It's heavy handed, but it also makes it less fun because part of Dungeons and Dragons is not set in realism. I mean, it can
yeah.
be. That can be fun, but people like to win, and as a dungeon master, the truth is it's your job to lose, but you want to make it challenging. But like, if you just say whatever you think of somebody, like the people are smarter. Like,
Yeah.
no,
The see my favorite way to do it as a DM, personally, my favorite way is to find a way that works within the existing rules and everything. Like, I don't like being that hand wavy guy who just says it doesn't work because I say it doesn't work.
no,
Like
yeah, that sucks.
there's certain situations where you have to, where you're like, dude, you just can't beat this guy. Like
Yeah,
I just
please.
can't. This
It's like I've straight up been on the side where I'm like, can you please not? Like,
yeah.
I know yeah, that would totally work, but I'm begging you not to do this because it won't be fun. Like,
Hmm.
you are not going to enjoy this next scene if you do it this way. Like,
Right.
and honestly, every time I do that, I have failed. I feel as a dungeon master that I have failed my party somehow because I couldn't come up with a yes and. Like,
Right. You couldn't play off what they were doing well enough.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's a tough one.
it's rough. And
Yeah.
dungeon masters are just people. Hey guys, he's just the guy who pretends to know the rules better than you. Most dungeon masters probably don't even know the rules better than you. They're
I
just
don't.
willing to step up and do that thing.
Yeah.
We don't always have an answer, and it's real hard sometimes. Uh, the ones who
Yeah.
can always go with that flow, you're the heroes, man. Like,
Yeah,
because
golf's not for you.
I
For
know that
sure.
the handful of times that I play a PC, I'm one of the worst. I don't know what it is about dungeon masters who finally PC, but we are just awful people.
Just yeah, the
It's like
worst.
it's my turn.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna do it to you. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I've definitely
exactly. And that
experienced that.
dungeon and that guy who's been a PC like once or twice is not prepared ever.
Right. Like, what do you mean you're gonna do it to me? Oh no.
Yeah.
I didn't plan for this.
Mm-mm. No one can plan for this.
Now you know what it's like for me.
But yeah, I lost track of what we were talking about. Just Dungeons and Dragons in general.
Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah.
The end story, the end of the game. I felt like I probably cut a few things, but honestly, it was one of those things where the way it played out felt whole. It felt pretty satisfying. There's only a handful of little loose ends, but the beauty of that, and one of the reasons why I love playing in my own D&D world that I've created is I just carry that in the next campaign. Krieg is alive. Next campaign, he's a dwarf. He lives for 500 years. You're going to have to fucking deal with him, maybe. Or he'll come up in a story or something, like maybe he's just tertiary. Maybe he does something else, that, and it's like just a ramification that the party never deals with, but the world will have to,
Right.
like
No,
maybe
it's-
he's,
that's one of those things I like about D&D. That's like it's like D&D to a certain extent is like a video game, right? Like obviously a lot different in a lot of ways, but like to a certain extent, it's like a video game,
Yeah,
and like
sure.
good video games
Video
have
ga-
sequels. Well, follow me here.
Video game with bad graphics but better programmers.
Yeah, sure, yeah, 100%. Video games often have sequels, and one of the things I really love about like video games with sequels is like when it takes the decisions you made in the last one and has it affect the next one, and that is
So Mass Effect. You really like Mass Effect.
yeah,
'Cause
Mass
that's, like,
Effect is
the only
great
one I
for
can
that
think
reason.
of.
Yeah, Mass Effect is great for that reason. Absolutely, yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, it was
that's a
dope. It's a
killer
great
thing.
game. It's that mechanic alone. Even if the game was bad, you were really caught up in the fact that, holy shit, I'm in the third game and that choice I made is coming back. Like,
Right,
and then you talk to
absolutely.
your friend and what they did didn't happen. Like,
Yeah,
oh, you
totally
didn't
different.
get that? You
Yeah,
didn't get that scene? That's great.
exactly.
Honestly, it's
No,
what Dungeons and Dragons
absolutely.
last is a DM who's willing to run the same campaign for two different groups. Let them talk to each other.
I mean, and that is one of those things that you can do in certain scenarios like Adventurers League and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But
it's true.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
this much: as far as Krieg is concerned, I was way more focused on that head priest than Krieg. I wanted him so dead, and you made it not so he was going to be
Yes.
dead.
Sadly, the only character on the board with plot armor
Yeah, I
was the
know.
one you chose to try to kill.
I was like, I'm going to kill this dude. I'm
Yeah,
going to fucking murder him.
he has
Especially
plot
when you
armor.
told me he wasn't who he was supposed to be.
I'll tell you regrets. That character is a foreshadow. He's the bad guy, but like I made him. He's not like god level strong. Like you guys fucking embarrassed him.
Hurt him.
Yeah, like it wasn't even like you hurt him constantly. You just embarrassed him. He failed most saves. I was rolling badly with him on top of things, but
he got so lucky with that being banished save. Oh,
yeah,
I was so excited to get him banished.
it wasn't
to
until the
just
very end
somewhere.
that you started doing like actual damage, and he's important to the next campaign. One of my regrets is that I didn't do a good enough job foreshadowing the things up with him. I felt like I kind of shoehorned a lot of stuff at the very end, and largely that's because one of the things that nobody did was spend a lot of time around the villains. It was the only thing that didn't come up with. The most villain activity you guys ever saw was around the Deuce because of his repeat. He was important to a lot of the plot that you guys dealt with.
Right.
And Will and Bennett, some of the stuff in the army, you guys got to spend a little time around some of your villains,
Yeah.
He as a villain had no screen time. So he very much had that, like, what if Thanos was the big bad, but he just dropped in at the end of Endgame and you didn't get any scenes with him leading up, was sort of like how that played out.
Yeah.
And I have regrets on that. I feel like I didn't handle that well enough. I should have shoehorned him in somewhere. I should have had a scene where you guys could have gotten to know that character. Would have been great things to do via Sabobos, who was in the church.
Yeah.
But once again, that was partially because of things like Strana having trouble recording with us.
Being
he
on
took
the
on
show.
his new job.
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons, scheduling issues. They cause little problems. So yeah, that was a pretty big regret for me, is that I couldn't sell what was going on with him a little bit better. He had plot armor. He's going to matter in the next campaign. He is a character who will be revealed later.
Okay.
But
this leads me directly into my next question, which is beautiful that this happened.
And he's not. And last I'll say is he was not as he seemed, obviously, as Grim found out.
Yeah, you gave that away for me, and I was like, oh, I want to know what this is about. Me,
Yeah.
I'm always chasing the lead as a person.
But I think one of the things that I'm gonna have fun at, like little teasers and spoilers. I want cameos of all your previous characters for the next campaign. I've always viewed this campaign as like a little bit of a prequel. Like if this is The Hobbit, the next campaign would be like Lord of the Rings, where the things that happen in The Hobbit don't matter in Lord of the Rings. The majority of the story, except for these tiny little things that are super important, like Bilbo found the ring under the fucking mountain with Gollum. Gollum's very important, but it's just one scene in The Hobbit. One tiny scene,
Right.
The ring means nothing. It's just a cool tool he gets. I want this, like, Grim, like, if the next party has to find Grim and get information, or like Grim is the one who gives them the information. It's like, oh yeah, no, this guy you're looking for was in Griffinport 20 years ago. Like,
Right.
matches his MO and everything, and you give them the clue they need for the next campaign. That's kind of my
Right.
intent with that.
I
I want it to
I
happen
love
with
that
all your
idea.
characters because I've got little tidbits from everybody, stuff they did through the campaign that's
Oh yeah,
not
I
important to
applaud
the
you. I
story.
applaud your note taking because you have to be taking some pretty great notes on all these little things.
No, not at all. I don't believe in notes. No. Yeah.
I believe that too.
Yeah.
Weird. So this leads me beautifully into my next question and last question about the campaign that we're coming out of, which is this. Tell me the things, and like I really want to pick your brain here. I want to go into whatever detail you're willing to go into. Tell me the things that you wanted to be an important, or to maybe not necessarily be important, but be like a seed for next campaign that you feel like didn't make it, and let's have that opportunity now for these seeds that maybe didn't hit.
Seeds from this campaign that you guys might have not caught on to?
That we might not have caught on to, that didn't get enough time, that didn't get the attention you wanted them to get. Lay that groundwork now here for our listeners so that they can go, oh, so for those of them who manage to watch this, which hopefully there's a way to save this so that they can watch it whenever. I know that these go away.
I can say you can actually download them from the Twitch channel. I could download it. I'll probably put it on Patreon for some of our subscribers, and then we can even upload it to the YouTube because we have a YouTube that we don't utilize.
Yeah, let's put it on the fucking.
That
YouTube.
would be a great thing for our YouTube. I'll try to make sure to save this as soon as it uploads and finishes everything, and we'll put it on YouTube for
put
people
the shit on YouTube.
Sure.
And then what we can do is we can blast it out next week, and that way people can watch it. I love this. This is all.
There we go.
This is all going in it too. It's live. I love it.
Yeah, all this. So, I don't think that there were like things that you guys were supposed to pick up on. Like I said, if you like equated to like The Hobbit, right? If you read The Hobbit before you read Lord of the Rings, you wouldn't think fucking twice about the ring. It's a cool tool. It was a magic item he got that helped him along. It was integral to the plot of Bilbo, but not. There was no hint that it was shady or that it was the One Ring. That's the sort of stuff that I definitely do have in this campaign. Like the fact that he isn't what he seems is one of them. He's going to matter later. Another one is the armor that I gave Bruce when he went to hell and came back. Is an Easter egg for Mitch, who has played in my campaign world for like 2 or 3 campaigns. So he has met a bevy of characters over like 100 years of the world, like the history of my game. Yeah. And one of the character NPCs that he loved from another campaign, that is his breastplate. It was a paladin, this old aged paladin named Mark of Cloverport. And he was just an NPC that they ran into when they were playing an evil campaign, and he couldn't prove that they were bad guys, but he was always hanging around waiting for them to slip up. He was just this old elderly paladin who talked a lot of shit. So he had his breastplate that he found in hell because that character was left in the hells at the last they had ever seen him in the campaign.
Yeah.
And so he found the guy's armor. That was like just a tidbit for him. But I wanted to make it a thing that you will have to follow up on whatever happened to Mark of Cloverport. It's going to be a thing that'll pop up in the next campaign, and that will lead you to Bruce. Because Bruce was the one who has that information, and Bruce, as we've found out, is alive at the top of the mountain in that armor, and I intend to take the campaign to him later on. Spoilers, but
I can't wait. I can't wait.
That's one, and that's just on the path, like these sort of things. It's not that you needed to listen to this campaign to understand it, but it'll be a reference. It's like when you see I love Lord of the Rings. So I'm going to do a lot of Lord of the Rings reference. It's like when you see the 3 frozen trolls in the background of Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about The Hobbit, you don't know what those trolls meant, in the movie,
Right. They mean nothing to you, but
they mean nothing to you. But everyone who did know is like, oh. That's I would love to see that from diehard fans. If I can get that reaction, then I am victorious.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. No, and I love that too. Like I love that as a person. Like I like a lot of things that are from extended fandoms. Lord of the Rings is one of those. Even though
Yeah.
I'm not as versed as you are, but like I've become more versed over the years.
I mean, it's hard not to.
Yeah.
Memeing. Everything we know is from memes anymore.
That's true. But like,
Everything.
like Spider-Man, for instance, is a thing I'm super about,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, as you who know me know.
Yeah, no,
And,
I
like,
get
when
most of
I'm-
my Spider-Man knowledge from you.
And like when I'm like playing a video game or watching a TV show or watching a movie and they put that extra stuff in the background, I'm just like, oh, those Easter eggs just like
Mhm.
yeah, I love that. Yes, it shows me
Yeah.
that they know about the material like I
They
do.
understand the source material, even if it's not here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It lets me know that they're a part of it, like I'm
Yeah.
a part of it, and that feels good.
Yeah. So yeah,
So that's an exciting thing for moving into the future as well.
yeah. So Bruce's armor. I think. What are other little tidbits that'll probably make it to another campaign that I want to tell you, because I might not tell you everything.
Yeah, of course. So
I'm
only
trying to
tell me
think
the
here.
ones you want to tell me. Don't surprise me with things you don't want to say. Don't
I
be
think
weird.
we'll probably have to at least visit Griffinport.
Yeah.
I think that I think that Dylan and his adopted daughter have a part to play still, as far as the story of Azazel, because Azazel will be somebody you guys will be dealing with again in campaign 2. Because
Okay.
like,
Sneak question: is Azazel's father also going to be important?
yes, very.
Oh, I'm excited for that
Yes,
as
anybody
well.
who went who listened back far. I don't even know if I mentioned him in the recap, but yeah, Azazel
I
has
don't
a
think you
father
did.
who talked to Dylan's character, gave him another option as far as a warlock patron. His father is the original King of Hell is the story there, and we'll go into that more later.
That's exciting. That is exciting, right there.
The next campaign is going to be set in the backdrop of Bree, the enemy nation. Throughout this campaign, this was basically just this shady thing that you guys kind of had to deal with on the fringe. There was only one time when you went head to head with them during the war arc.
The amorphous bad guy that we were dealing with the whole campaign. Yeah.
Yeah, and as like I even had to tell Randall, like, hey, your guy, you've set yourself against Azazel, but like he's not the big bad. Like, just so you know, I don't want you to like get too caught up in that. I'm not gonna resolve it. Like, it's not gonna come up, But yeah, so we're gonna be going to the heart of that nation. We're gonna get to know that army. You guys are going to be a part of that group when we start out, and the world's going to move forward about 20 years, and they're going to be mopping up without Griffinport showing a major resistance anymore. Because Griffinport, even though you guys did succeed, Griffinport took a humongous hit, both in the battle at Santitas and at their capital city when everything went to high hell. Like it flooded. A lot of the infrastructure.
You're telling me that this rift that made a whole bunch of crazy shit happen somehow hobbled the
major economic and military might in the area? Yeah, just a little bit.
That seems wild to me. I don't know. This doesn't seem realistic.
Yeah,
you're telling me one crazy storm can make an entire like state like totally struggle.
That's not. I know. I love Dungeons and Dragons because of the fantasy, right? It's unrealistic. You get to really see what would happen in a fake situation like that.
Yeah, I can't believe that weather could take down an entire power structure of a state.
And it just shows how good technology is, that magic couldn't save them, Yeah. We have technology, which is obviously far superior.
Obviously.
Yeah. So we're going to move forward in time. We're going to see Griffinport. And I'll say this, even though I say like it didn't quite save Griffinport, I intended, here's some behind the scenes. I intended Griffinport to be destroyed. I was hoping, like, at best, you guys would save the people. That's the heroic action that I was hoping you guys would accomplish. But my intent as the dungeon master was to have the entire, like, city sink into the water. Like, there was supposed to be no saving the actual structures of Griffinport.
Yeah.
And you guys did a good job in the end of, like, mitigating some of the disaster, which I didn't expect to happen. There were even the battle at Santitas, which Dylan got a lot of flack for, was supposed to go a lot worse, and that was largely because of Grimm and Bruce, who went straight for the Doomsday weapon, not even knowing what it was.
Yeah.
Changed the outcome a lot. So that means that like, because I like to have an organic world, my intent at the time, I was already building this campaign, and I was like, well, shit, some of the Griffinport military still exists. I'm gonna have to adjust for that.
Yeah.
Like, because my intent when I had first written it was Griffinport military is gone. It's devastated. There's nothing. There's like very little left. There's just going to be pockets of resistance. But no, there's a substantial amount still around. Right. They probably couldn't really push back, but they're going to be better entrenched than I had originally planned.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, and as a dungeon master, that's probably one of my favorite things is having an idea, but then having to like, oh, the PCs have changed the world. I love it when that happens. Like the world is altered because of your actions, and it's something that you did. Like I said, it wasn't necessarily the intent of your characters at the time. It was sort of like just this side thing that just seemed like the right course of action for y'all at the time.
Right. Yeah.
But it's going to have rippling effect in my world.
Oh yeah, butterfly effect all the way through, and like that's great world building right there. Like I applaud you on that. Like that's one of those things that can be difficult to accomplish. Is this sort of like everything will affect something else, because that's the way the real world works. And like, good on you for that.
I could probably do a whole episode of this show you're doing on just previous stories that have rippled. Like if you want to go backward rather than forward, I could talk to you about things that Mitch has done, because he's played with like longest in my games. And then friends that I don't even talk to anymore that used to play D&D with me, and like how that's like, oh yeah, no, this character you ran into is like somebody that they made up or something, like things like that.
We might.
I have to do that. It might be fun.
We'll see how long we're doing this. We'll see how long No Dice goes on, but if it goes on long enough, we might just end up breaking down into discussions.
The campaign that I ran just before this one that we started actually turning into a podcast was a Spelljammer inspired Feywild Planeshopper campaign. I gave them a ship, started them on the high seas, and then that elevated from boats on the high seas to boats that could planes hop, and then I just took them on like a tour of my extra plane, like not the material plane. In fact, the whole campaign for them was basically, how do we get home? And basically the premise was everybody told them you can't go home. You can't go back to the material plane. There's rules. The same problem that Grimm was having when he was trying to get back is that it's just not that easy to cross that particular boundary. You can hop from the fire to water to Fey to everywhere else, but can't go to the material plane. There's rules. And they did a lot of things that definitely had repercussions for Grimm. Like the whole war going on in the realm of Fey, they were dealing with that, which was just a backdrop for you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. No, I've been told, obviously, me as Grimm and Mitch as Bruce had the most backstory given to us, right? Like everybody else,
which I love, by the way. Mitch is Bruce, because if you've listened to the show, you've probably heard this story before. That when we started the campaign, I had originally just started as a campaign like anything else, and then about a few episodes in, or not even episodes at the time, a few sessions, because we were just playing D&D. My group fell apart. He had made Bruce, and Bruce was more or less the character you saw on the show. We started that campaign, and then that group fell apart. We stopped hanging out with those friends. We stopped doing that campaign. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, what if we do a podcast? And he's like, okay, but I'm not making a new character. And I laughed. And he said, no, I'm not making a new
fucking character. Yeah.
And so he brought in Bruce at level 3. That's why you guys started at level 3. The real reason. Brought in Bruce, and it was one of the things that I actually loved about that character was that he felt ingrained in the city already.
Yeah,
which made sense because he was this old. It was already part of the character, but like, so I would feed him information. I was like, just drop this. This about the town. Like,
yeah,
these things. So Bruce always felt like he knew shit that y'all didn't, which was very funny when he would just make shit up, because I, as the dungeon master, would either roll with it or not. And it was just Bruce is wrong.
Right. Sometimes he just gets to be wrong. He's old.
Yeah. He's old.
No,
it was very fun.
And it's, that's sort of the fun part about having an entrenched PC, is that you can be like, hey, yeah, these things. And you can always be like, no, you don't. You can be like, you're wrong. And like, for some people, like it's best as a player to be able to roll with that, because like we're flawed. We're gonna everybody's flawed, right? Every type of humanoid should apply to the same rules as the ones that exist in real life that we
Yeah.
know, which is we're flawed. Like we don't have
And,
great
and as
memories.
players, it's your job to roll with that. The dungeon master can 100% curtail what you're saying because you're enacting god power essentially on his world, and that's
Right.
his right as the creator of the world. It might be very important to the story. You don't know. Yeah,
Right.
no. Fucking lizards are never green. You're gonna think, why are you fighting me on that? And it's plot related. How dare you? You know,
Right.
you don't know.
Don't ask why I'm
It's gonna be
fighting you on
big.
it. Just
later.
know that I'm telling you that this is a thing. So keep
But
on.
I'll say this, shout out to Mitch because I've played with him for so long and I trust him because he's a very good storyteller and role player. He's been LARPing for I don't know how many years and he's been playing D&D with me for we're old, never mind. But like so I trust him when he just spits something out, you know.
Yeah.
And most of the time I'll roll with it because he knows where the boundaries are. He doesn't typically overstep and like if you can get that relationship with your players, it's truly a blessing. It's really great when you can just let them sort of riff, and it's just like that's, and the rest of your players will look at you and go, "Fucking canon now." That's true. You know, that's 100%
That's
true.
how it works. That's how it works now.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky.
You can thank him for Hentar.
Yes. I don't know if I'll thank him for it, but
you should thank him for Hentar. I thank him for Hentar every day.
I was very lucky. My first actual D&D character, the first one I ever made, I spent that time with the DM because obviously it's one of those things where it's your first character and you probably should spend some time with your DM and
Yeah.
he's going to help you figure it out. But not even just that, right? He was like, hey, here's some things you're going to like as far as race choice and character choice, da da da, or like role choice and da da da, which is the normal stuff. But beyond that, he was like, here's some background. And that first character I ever made felt very much like Grimm does, where it's like he's a part of the world already. He gave me some story. He gave me some things where I didn't just write all of it myself. I didn't just come up with something.
Yeah.
I was a part of what he gave me to make something.
Yeah, I love the collaboration when you make the characters. On the one hand, there's a lot of players who show up with their idea fully formed. They don't want you to touch it.
Right.
That's fine. I find it the hardest to work with personally because it's like, well, you're coming into my world. Like, you can't know everything you need to know about what you just wrote. I do my best to work around that because that's fun too, trying to figure out how to make that key fit in the lock.
Right.
You know, but it can be hard sometimes. You know, it's especially like it's one of the things you always want to try to figure out is thematically if the people's perception of their character are going to fit in the world.
Right. Yes.
I used to make the joke all the time, keep your anime bullshit out of my high fantasy, because a lot of kids who are younger would show up to my table thinking of Naruto and Dragon Ball Z. And so they'd show up with this character with like this epic backstory. He's killed gods already. He's like a slayer of dragons. I'm like, oh, really? At level 1?
Yeah.
you know,
that's definitely one of those things. How do you
explain that? Which we sort of did, ironically, with Grimm, because Grimm was a god, not a god, but like a fairy lord. You wanted him to be this
a big powerful thing.
And I was like, okay, well, how do we make that work? You know, and that can be fun too. It's not a story about you gaining power; it's a story about you getting your power back. You know?
No, and I think that was really satisfying. Like, one, from a player side, but I think even from a story side, that made that very satisfying. Definitely. And spending time with your DM and building that character where you work into your world. Like, as a DM, I've always said I want backstories first, and then I can help build the world around that. Something I've said several times, and like, to a certain extent it works, to a certain extent it doesn't. Like,
I've had to work with both kinds of players. You know, like there's the one I love a mix of the two. But Ryan's brand new to the hobby. He has listened to a lot of D&D podcasts. He was very interested in it. And when I said I wanted to do it, he was intrigued. He played maybe a couple sessions of the previous campaign, but it was difficult for him because he lived further away. So when he showed up, he was very green at Dungeons and Dragons in general. Yeah. And his character, Roy, was very cookie cutter. Like, he didn't have a lot of background. I would like needle him as we went on to fill in the gaps. But that was fine in the end. You don't necessarily need a backstory for the character to start to flesh out, because this was his backstory. This is the most important thing that ever happened to Roy, was the story we told, you know, like, and there's something to that too, that you can just leave it, you know. I'm just a guy, you know. Roy was just a guy, who got thrown into the situation.
Yeah,
you
who
know,
became a part of something way more. Yeah,
yeah,
and I think
and
I think
he
that was really cool.
and I'm very proud of Brian because he became front and center by the end. You know, he was very
Yeah.
much in the background, just sort of going with the flow, and he ended up practically leading toward the end. You know, like
Yeah,
it was it was
he
a it
really
was a
stepped
very
into a
great growth,
role of being a big thing. Yeah,
both of the character and
absolutely.
of Brian as a player. It was amazing.
Yeah, I love that. I agree. It was cool to watch that. Like having been that one,
Yeah.
having been that guy who was like, I want to see what this is like, and like then becoming that myself and seeing it happen to somebody else. It's really cool. You know,
Yeah.
and I've seen it a couple times, luckily enough. Real quick, I do want to address what's this Valley Xeon said. Need a
Oh, do
chat.
we have
Build,
questions?
yeah,
Ooh.
looks like need a chat to build NPC sessions to make DM really think. I don't really know what you're trying to say right there, but I want to address it. I do want to address it because you're here. You want to be with us for Torchlit No Dice. I love that. So I want to address it. So if you can if you can give me like a little bit more of what you're thinking about, we will address it here as soon as it's in the chat. So feel free to say something. And we'll
Yeah,
just sort of,
flesh that out. I'll give you whatever I
yeah,
can.
we'll pick the brain of the Torchlit DM here, and you can get a little bit of the amateur DM's brain as well in myself. So definitely expound upon that, and we'll get right back to that. Going back to what we were discussing until that comes up, um, I I think it was really cool having these characters built into this world and having like all this extra stuff that we knew, like, you know, being just part of the background, this world that you built, you know, like the idea that I knew about this thing that happened in another campaign that you told me about, right? You were like, hey, in this other campaign there was this fake
Mm-hmm.
guy, he took over, the real guy was one of my players, like da da da, and this is stuff that'll matter to you. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like
Had to
not
give
only
you a
weaving
history
in
lesson
previous
just for you
campaigns, and
to.
yeah, like it was a lot of fun. But as we go into this next campaign, right, we've already discussed some of the things that we're weaving into
Mhm.
it. I really want to discuss, like, I want to start moving towards questions. And I'm okay with moving back and forth through all these through the timelines and such. But I want to start discussing what are some of the things you're very excited about as we start this next campaign. Like, what are the things that you want people? What are things that you builds your excitement that maybe you can tell some of our few viewers here that will make them maybe interested in it as well. Like,
I mean, I'm excited for you guys to explore more of the map. When we did this campaign, we did it in one city, and that was partially like an experiment to see
brave
like
is
if
what it
I
was.
didn't leave the setting, like how I could make it dynamic and interesting while still keeping it in the same town. You know, I mean,
Real
books
brave.
and stories do it all the time, right? Like, but far as a Dungeons and Dragons game, it's not really built for that. But so I'm excited for you guys to jet set across my beautiful world, get to know some of the other nations and peoples, and then for you guys to help me fill in some of the gray areas, because the truth is Dungeon Master doesn't have it all figured out. I'm looking forward to like you guys weighing in and putting your little stank on like the different peoples and cultures and things. I've obviously got some ideas for some of the stuff you're going to deal with.
No.
Your character in particular is leading me down a lot of thoughts because you want to play a monk, and we've talked about going through the sort of
Don't tell him too
wuxia.
much.
I'm not going to tell him too much, other than it gives me the option to sort of be inspired by kung fu movies and like the idea of learning the way of the whatever, you know. And if we're
Yeah.
going to go all over the place, then I want you to like learn the different fighting styles as you go there, you know, like just sort of embrace that shit. Might be kind of fun and goofy. And what are those fighting styles going to look like? How do their philosophies manifest? Because I love putting the various different conflicting philosophies in my D&D world.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things that I did when I built the religions in my world was not just, oh, this is the god of death. His portfolio is death, gravestones, and blah blah blah. Like it's written in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Like everything you need to know to build a character is there. This this god is about healing and light and whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, but what do they teach?
Yeah, but
Like,
what's the nuance
who
there?
worships the god of death? How do they have a church? Like, you know, what would you tell the populace that would get them to fill your pews or give you money? Like, these are the questions that I ask. So like, so I'm gonna be doing that sort of thing, like the fighting mentality, because like in the real world, most of the fighting styles you know or see typically have some sort of uh,
History.
religion or history or way of living that's
Right.
ingrained
Some
in them to a certain
ideology really
something.
attached to
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So I'm gonna try to do that a little bit. And
Yeah.
that's one of the ways that I flesh out my world to make it feel a little bit more dynamic. Is
Yeah.
it's not, you're not just learning how to do an extra d6 damage. You're gonna learn something else. And
Right.
because I built gray worlds, the thing I teach you isn't necessarily like a good or evil. It's just gonna be a thought,
thing.
you know, a
Yeah.
thing, and you can apply it to your character how you wish. You can rail against it, you know.
Yeah. Very a la Drunken Master, your sort of ideas, like the original Drunken Master, which most people haven't seen.
Man, it's been a
but
long time since
great.
I've seen that movie. The original one with Jackie Chan.
Yes. Well,
Yes.
so most of the one that most people have seen is actually the sequel. The original is
I
just
don't
as
think
good.
I remember the difference between the two, but I'm almost certain that I have seen both versions.
In the first one, the original one, he actually learned several different styles of Drunken Fist. It's like girl plays flute, man with giant cup, several different. It's really fun. Like,
yeah.
really...
So spoiler alert: we're only teaching Jeff's character Drunken Fist because that's the best.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Ironically, it would fit with the character build you got in mind, but we'll go back to that later.
It might work. It might work. Another thing that I'm excited for, or that I want to talk about, that's kind of excited me, based on what you said, is the idea that you've talked to us pretty heavily as we move in, and I know you've given us a certain level of agency, right? Because you wanted to make. Tell me if I'm going too far here, but you basically told me that you kind of want all of us to be a Bruce or a Grimm. Is that fair to say? Is that giving away too much?
Oh, where you know a little bit more history coming in. Yeah, no, I definitely want one of the things that I really enjoyed, as fun as it was, and to play Dylan's character is like that trope of he has amnesia, because it allowed me to, well, one, as a podcast gimmick, it allowed me to introduce things to the audience in a way that was organic. Like there's something to that storytelling method where I can teach you the world because I have to reteach it to him. Every character should understand these basic tenets. They've lived here their whole life, you know. But like if you give a character amnesia, then you have the excuse to tell it to the audience.
Yes,
but
of course.
On the flip side, and that worked with Ryan too, because I just told him how to game, and we'll have to figure out a way to kind of engender that as you guys move on. I think it'll basically be that nobody will know everything, and I will be taking you to so many different locales that somebody will always be the odd man out. It might be Ryan again, actually, because his character build is very much a blank slate. So we'll see how that goes. But basically,
we're not going to talk about Ryan's character until we have Ryan on. So
actually, all of you have these like very blind spots with your characters, which would be great. So that handles that issue. But yeah, so
definitely we're gonna.
But I do want you guys
the movie
to
Blind
know,
Spotting, and it's gonna be great.
I do really want you guys to all, like you said, be a bit of a Grimm new Fae stuff. I told you a lot, and even the party didn't realize early on that Jeff actually 100% was told these things are facts. So when he would give you guys information, they thought you were just riffing. You know, I was like, no, Grimm was right when he told you those things. You know, and it's very much realistic that you guys don't necessarily agree or believe him, but like you had laid facts on them. So I want your characters to, within their own wheelhouses, be fairly knowledgeable about stuff. You guys are coming in as I think that the goof that you guys were kind of plucky nobodies in the city is gone. This time around, you guys are military men. Like the characters you guys have built are a little less naive. Like, you know, like we're not going to be dealing with the naivete of somebody who lived in safe and cushy in the city most of their life.
Right.
You know, Grimm was the less naive, but even he was a little naive because he lived in Fae which had very different rules. Like
Very
the
different
idea
rules,
of death is even kind of alien to Grimm, you know.
Right. I mean, it's like it's both alien and
And but he's weird the way he handles it. Like it's a different thought
it's like
process.
it's alien and at the same time has a higher level of finality to had a higher level of
Yes.
finality to Grimm, where it was like dying doesn't mean anything here, but if I did there, it's over. It's over.
Yeah.
Over. You guys get something else. Nope, don't get
Yeah.
that. This is
Yeah,
a
and
real
then you
full
don't
stop.
understand how time works, you know, like that sort
Right.
of thing. So
Oh,
this
that was a
next
fun thing to
campaign,
play
I
with.
am gonna that it was very fun. That sort of stuff is yeah, we're gonna fill your characters in on their niche, you know, like whatever it is. I'm gonna try to do my best to give you solid information, and we might even just pause the action, give you the information. Because we're in a podcast form, I might give it to you, and then we'll cut out that I gave it to you. We'll see. It's hard for me to give you everything you'd need to know to function in the world, you know, ahead of time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's one of those like DM. My tip to players out there, from a dungeon master to the player, is it is perfectly acceptable to ask the question: does my character know X? You know, does my character know this? What does my character know about blah blah blah? And that's a great chance for those skills that you never ever roll, like history and knowledge, arcana, and you know,
Yeah.
and nature checks. Those are fantastic skills that go totally slept on by the majority of games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's surprising how rarely people think to themselves like, "Listen, I don't know this, but my character should." And like, what
Now,
do I got to roll to check that?
the
Like,
next game, like as far as like utilizing the rule set, right? That's
yeah,
something that I want to try to be better at too. Is I want to reward skill checks in a way, like, and I've been thinking of ways that I can do that with some of those skills because they're weird skills, right?
yeah,
One of which I thought might be a wild one, which might be very dangerous, is the idea that if you guys make an outrageous claim, you're not so much rolling to see if it's true as to will it into truth. It's if you roll a natural 20 on that, well, that fact you just gave might just be real. You know,
that's it. You did it in one
Yeah.
slam dunk on the truth.
It's not that your character made it true; it's that it's always been true, but you've made the DM say yes. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, you really took
Which-
the and out of the yes there. Just say yes.
If you're a DM out there with a sort of high level chaotic evil energy, I highly recommend this. I don't know that if I have the bravery to or not, but we'll see.
Ooh, we'll see if
Yes,
I do. Huh?
Do really high DCs, but I promise you that will not save you. High DCs will never save you. In
Anytime.
fact, high DCs just sort of guarantee critical hits.
Yeah, anytime you want them to.
If you want them to fail, make it low. Make it like a 10 They'll never hit it.
They'll never hit it.
They'll never.
Yeah,
hit
when
that.
you're like, you'll need a nat 20. That's when they'll hit the nat 20.
Yeah, they'll hit that nat 20 every time. When you say, I want this to happen, DC 10, they will not hit that. They will never give you what you want. You, the dungeon master, are cursed. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's the way it is. But
that's just
they
the way
give
it
you
is.
this lovely thing called a DM scream, and you just get to lie because it's behind the DM.
Lie about it all the time.
Yeah,
lie.
It's my other pro tip to the DMs
just
out there.
Give
to
people
start
things
lying.
sometimes. Yeah, you know what? My pro tip to the DM is like sometimes just give it to them. Just give it to them.
Just give it to them. Yeah, like I said at the beginning of this,
they're gonna work really hard for it, and you're just gonna be like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I rolled a 2. Yeah, that's good enough. You've gotten it. You're.
My favorite trick is you're never like some things you're never rolling to see if they succeed or fail. You are rolling to see how cool it looks or how effective the success is. Yes, you need to get into the castle right now. That's part of the story. You have to get into the castle. You fail that check to talk your way in. He believes you, but he's going to follow you everywhere you go now. Like, you know, you don't have to say no to the act. You just have to say no to it being a flawless victory. You know, like there's ways around it. Being said, players, just take that loss and try something else. Go sneak in now. You failed the persuasion check. Move on.
Right. Try other things. Yeah.
Yeah. Go sneak in through the window. That's a climb check, and your barbarian's dope at those. Go do that.
Yeah, I think another one I like that I've seen a lot in other things recently, or listened to a lot in other things recently, and I can't even really place where. Maybe the boys over Adventure Zone, but a failure isn't a complete failure. It just dictates the amount of time that it took.
Yeah, that's
So it's
also a
like,
great way to do it. Yeah.
like when you're like, oh man, I want to do this thing, and you like roll super crappy at it. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
you're gonna be here for like 4 hours.
Yeah, you picked the lock,
Like,
but it took you an hour. Like that's valuable time lost. Like
right, and like understanding, like, because role playing in general, not even just Dungeons and Dragons, can be really wibbly wobbly about time. But like understanding the value of that time lost can be an important part of your play in general as well. Like getting that to be a part of things and being like, hey,
mhm.
I think that's one of the things that was kind of fun about the campaign we just finished is like the importance of time. I felt like was always present there, even when it was like, oh, we'll just kind of like go through some of this time where all
Mhm.
you're doing is walking anyway, da da da. But
Yeah.
still, like
Oh,
the fact that it
if you want
passed
more peeks behind the
mattered.
curtain, there was a lot of stuff that happened to you guys because time was treated so cavalierly by the party. A lot of political machinations moved forward by leaps and bounds because the party didn't
Didn't
do
rush.
any. Yeah, they didn't. It was like, well, other people have like things. Like I try to treat the NPCs as if they were trying to accomplish goals. So like,
Right. No,
like
I think the one of the coolest DM tips that's also one of those things that just like I think all the DM tips that I could give are just like work harder is like what that comes down to. And like I'm the worst person to give those tips because I don't necessarily do it, but like I know that they would make things better. And one of the ones that I would give right
I mean,
now is
I'll counter you with a more realistic and honestly more like I feel like it's more helpful to a lot of dungeon masters because, like I said, I'm doing a podcast. I'm trying to tell a story. I want it to be entertaining. At your table, the concept of entertainment is more fluid. If your
right,
party enjoys role playing, running a spice shop for 3 hours, then you succeeded, my dude. Like,
right, of
um,
course,
but like if when you talk about work harder, there's a counter to that, and it's let go. Like the dungeon master, if you let go of the reins for a moment, it's like the tiller will spin, but it will realign where they want to go. And as
right.
long as you can sort of roll with that and have something that you
Well,
can sort of create on the fly or whatever, like you'll be
yeah.
okay.
Well, and that's exactly my point behind the work harder thing. The work harder is in the background. It's not in the foreground. Like a lot of DMs try to do all their work in the foreground. They try to like, be a part of like what's up here. And like honestly, in my experience, in both what I've seen that works and what like when I was DMing, the things that didn't work as well is like if you just do more of that work in the background, you
Yeah.
have more of that stuff laid out.
Yeah.
Like, like having a city built and knowing where everything is
Yeah.
instead of like for
Like
me,
Report. I
right,
had an answer to any question you guys had. If you went to a
right,
different part of the city, I had something there. You
right.
know.
If somebody asks how far away this thing is, instead of being like, I don't know, like half a day or 2 hours, like, you know what I'm saying? Like having a solid answer to those things really helps.
Now
So
that
you
being
can
said,
just spit
a
them
lot
out.
of tools out there to help you do that. You do
Oh
not have
yeah.
to put in more work.
You
There
do
are
not.
random generators that will do that for you, and those are great.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to put in all the work. Like it doesn't have to be like really hard work. I'm just saying work harder on doing those things, right? Like
Yeah.
and like, the point I was getting to in this one is like have timelines in your head mapped out for certain things because if you want a world to
Yeah.
feel real, to feel lived in,
Mm.
having
Things should
things
happen
pass
on
by
timers. Yeah.
is a way to do that so that when your players are like, when your players come into the world and everything's just waiting for them,
Yeah.
it's like it's
It
cool,
it
but
makes
it
the world
makes
very
them
passive. It feels like a video game at that point because that's sort of the way like
right.
Skyrim works. Just think they're just waiting for you to talk to them. You're the only one that matters.
Right. And
And
it's way better when things are happening and you're
And
like,
like if you love the party to have a real impact on the world, there's a certain amount of that that's great. Like yeah, no, the world will continue on without you, but you guys are the ones who are going to change it. Like
right.
your actions, and that's sort of my mentality. That typically like nothing huge will happen without player interaction, but at the same time, yeah, no, I've got NPCs. If you touch that NPC, you set it in motion. Like
Well, and I mean, I think the idea behind things kind of running in the background is for me is like you can and will affect these things
mhm,
100%, most likely, hopefully.
yeah,
But if you don't, that has an effect too, right? So it's not as though it's taking away the PC's power in that, but instead it's going, hey, because you didn't,
Yeah.
this is how that changed.
Well, yeah, it actually
You could
it's
have done
that
a lot, but because you
it,
didn't,
it's
this
two
is
sides
how.
of the same coin, right? You
Yeah.
guys do a thing makes you feel like, yeah, we affected the world. When you guys don't, bad thing, like it puts weight so that they know that
Right.
no, I do matter, because if I don't act, something big will happen. Like
Right.
that's important. It's important to have consequence, because that also ups the scale and the what do you call it,
The sort of
the
gravitas of
yeah,
the
the
whole thing.
gravitas of the characters. In fact, like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's good to do that. My own criticism is I actually feel like I don't let you guys lose enough. Like, I feel like this last campaign I was soft, and I'm going to be crushing you into dust the next campaign to overcompensate. That's probably what's going to happen.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Crush to dust.
No, I'm
Crush
a big
to dust.
softy. I talk a lot of shit, but I'm gonna try real hard to be meaner as a DM. But the truth,
Yeah.
like you guys, that joke. It's still that. There you go. Here's something that I regret: not hurting you guys more in the final fight.
Yeah.
Fun
we just
fact:
made it
Fifth
through.
edition, really hard to challenge your NPCs or your PCs with NPCs. The game is built to throw monsters at them. Please throw monsters at your PCs, particularly if they go past a certain level. Use beholders and drag.
I mean, I think that's oh. I think that is uh sorry, you're
Oh, yeah, you are too. I think we're good.
okay, we're figuring it out. Okay, here
Yeah.
we go. I think that is very valid, but I think that also at a certain stage, based on some of the stuff I've seen and some of the stuff as far as like talking to other DMs and stuff, I think there are a certain stage that if you're going to have some sort of humanoid that's not a monster, which you can
Just
beset them with some humanoid. The book won't have that anymore. That at a certain
yeah,
stage you do also need to replace. It's kind
yeah,
of like give and take. At a certain stage you need
yeah.
to replace these monsters with NPCs, but you need to build them. You need to have built them
Yeah,
all
and
the
that's
way.
that. Like the fights that did work out were characters that I actually built to fight you, because I built them like a monster, like Gavrillo. He had
Yeah,
legendary actions. He had attacks that had nothing to do with spells. Like
right.
that was a very dynamic fight that worked very well. I wasn't sure if I had balanced him properly, but luckily you guys were high enough level that there's no such thing as balance once you get past like 10th level in 5th edition. I found like it's just go, just fucking wing it, guys. I don't know.
Yeah,
They have rules in the book. I don't know if they work. Now granted,
yeah.
I also have
We'll
learned
see how I address
like,
that if we ever get there.
yeah, dude, I don't recommend you let us level past like 8. Just don't allow it.
Kill you all.
Find something with level drain and apply vigorously. Fifth edition was new to me, like going up that high. First campaign that I played through in fifth edition.
Yeah.
I played a little. I practiced with it. I listened to a lot of podcasts, but fifth edition was fairly new when I started doing the recording. Mostly, I'd played third edition and Pathfinder. But even in third edition and Pathfinder, the highest level campaign that I had actually played was to 12, and it stopped at 12. We didn't even really play at 12. So you guys went to the highest level legitimately, and I say legitimately because I didn't do XP, I did milestone, but I've done 20th level characters in Pathfinder, but it was just like I love, we made 20th level characters for fun, or we leveled up characters that they had played previously to 20, like a time jump had gone. Now you guys are gods, because we had done a long pause, and let's pick back up and try out the epic level handbook, which was a
Right.
great book, by the way, for third edition. Anybody who's old like me and remembers the kick-ass books that took you to level 30.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna do that for fifth. I think that'd be fun if they gave us a. Not only did we do epic levels, I let them do divinity ranks, because there was a whole book of like god powers that they also put
Yeah.
out.
I've read some really interesting stories with what people have done with stuff like that, and like, and even just role playing in general, where you just kind of like take the basic idea of a rule set and then just fuck it up from there.
Oh yeah, and we did
Make
that.
your own
We
thing.
absolutely did that.
And like I think there's some really cool stuff that could be done there. Really
It's one
fun,
of
interesting.
my favorite stories from old days. Friends of mine, Ian and Dylan, they some of my oldest friends that I'm not really in touch with anymore, but we did that where they made 20th level characters, and I was like, I'm gonna humble you, just so you know. Like they beat the big bad, and then as a joke, I dropped them into a pit with creatures called shocker lizards, which back in third edition was just a quarter level challenge rating lizard, and its special ability was that it did like some lightning damage. That was all it did.
Yeah.
And they're nothing unless you had multiples of them. So they dropped into this nest of shocker lizards, and then there was like the ability they had was they had an exponential growth of damage. So they did like I dropped them into a nest of 100 shocker lizards. It did like 100 d8 lightning damage or some shit. And it was just to remind them that DM can kill you at any time. But joke's on me, because we had made, like, through the course of their characters, one of them was a vampire, another one was like immune to lightning damage, and I'm, so half of them were immune to lightning damage anyway. And it was like, well, fuck me.
Well, fuck me.
I'm a bad DM. I don't pay any attention to your character build.
So, okay, here's another thing. Just to answer this last question, because we're getting really close to the end, and hopefully this doesn't take too crazy long.
It's an early day for me tomorrow.
Yeah. The last thing I do want to ask is, since we are so entrenched, and I know that we've had talks, and I know you've had talks with the other players leading into this. I want to know, because I feel as though, and again, this might be too spoilery, and let me know if you want me to back off. You kind of made us a part of the decision making, right? This turning us all into Grim, turning us all into Bruce. You were like, okay,
yeah, we're gonna get.
Here's what I'm going to give you.
A lot into your
Tell me what you're giving me.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you're excited for, or like, even if you're just in broad strokes, like who are you excited for as far as what the players have actually already added to your world?
You mean for your next set of characters?
For the next ones, yeah. The last ones it's done. It's over. There's new characters. They're prettier. They're newer. They're shinier.
I think we're going to talk about it on the show. I think I want to do a session 0 where we discuss our characters, and I don't really want to step on someone else's toes, because like you said, like, I don't get too far into my character, and because the other guys aren't here to say likewise, I don't want to spoil.
Of course,
some of the choices they've made.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to delve into a couple of like the new races. Everybody picked a new race, and what that's going to mean. I'm excited. Is all new. I don't think anybody's any class that we've seen on our show yet. So we get to delve into that, because as a dungeon master, I always find it very fun to actually get into the meat and potatoes of like what makes a class tick. It's one of the reasons why warlocks and paladins are some of my favorite class, because you cannot play either one of those without just the choice of the character you made having an effect on your character's story. Like warlocks have a patron, and that's a fairly big deal. Like, if as a dungeon master, if you aren't having fun with the patron they picked, what are you even doing? Like, that's literally just like free strings,
Yeah, you just get tossed a bone when somebody wants to be a warlock.
Yeah, it's the same with the paladin. The paladin has this goal. It has this pathos he's supposed to follow.
Right.
If you are poking at it every chance you get, is he even a paladin? Like,
right.
You just gave that fighter free smite. Why would you do that?
Yeah. If you're not testing the strength of your paladin's oath, like, what are you?
Exactly.
What's the point?
What is the point of playing a paladin? And if they're playing a paladin, they better be wanting you to. Like, what?
Yeah, no, you want that, right?
Like, if you're going to be a paladin, you don't just get to play the most broken class in the game without testing you.
Right. Because, like, here's the thing, like,
obviously check in session 0 and things like that to make sure that if, like, no, I really don't want you to test my paladin. That would make this unfun for me. I want to be a cartoon cookie cutout of this, which it's valid, if you want to play that kind of character.
Play what you want to play. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's
just gonna make me make the sad DM noise if you say that.
The thing that's the most fun about making any character is playing a character, in my opinion, one of the things that really adds to it is the idea of like what you could lose as a character, and like not just like, oh man, I could lose my family or my money, but like if you're playing a paladin, I love the idea of test that oath, and I love the idea that if you're not going to play it right, you broke your oath, and guess what? You're not a paladin any fucking more.
Yeah,
like I think that's
it,
cool.
it is something
and people
that
have issues with that, but
yeah, like it's dangerous, like to get into it. Like sometimes there's like, hey, I'm not gonna have fun if you make that happen. Like I'm playing a paladin, but that's what I want to play. So if we push the boundaries and Jay's not capable of going as far as the DM wants them to, like if the inevitable conclusion is that I'm going to be pushed to a point where my paladin loses their faith and then I have to do that, and I don't want to play the rise of that paladin, like being gimped in some way for a period of time or having to relearn a new class, just like I did with Randall. I just changed classes. We agreed that his character was close enough that he could just be a rogue now, and he's low enough level when he made that choice that we could just do that. And it wouldn't inhibit the character, wouldn't make him weaker than the rest of the party, which is something you don't always want to do. Some players will do it, and I love them. Shout out to those players who will be like, no, give me, I don't care. I'm playing a story, But like it's something you definitely need to communicate, because it could take all the fun away. And this game is about fun. The dungeon master, it's your job to challenge them. It's your job to help them tell the story they want to tell. But
it's your job to play with them and have fun with them. Like that's
having fun is the key.
At the end of the day, your job is to have fun with them, and you got.
And everybody has a different idea of that. And if you guys both vibe on the same, like, no, fuck my paladin, like just kick his ass, make him stop believing in God. It's great, okay, we'll do that,
Right. I mean, it's one of those things where like you got to establish it with your players and with your DM. Like this is what I want to play, and like not even just like specifically, but like, hey, I'm willing to go wherever it goes. Like,
no, here's the next level though. I don't mean to cut you off, but here's the next level. There's no fucking reason that you can't apply those things to other classes. That's the next level DM shit. If you can find a way to give a crisis of faith to the barbarian or the wizard or the whatever, like.
Right.
Do it. Like if if the players are willing to play that, like that, they don't have to pick paladin to have that same story arc, like
well, and so
tempt the wizard to become a warlock.
Yeah.
Do it.
Of course. No, and I think so. I think that there's absolutely so many levels of that, like, and so many things that like that aren't as used anymore, but like in older editions, if you were a ranger, you had to be a certain alignment, right? And alignment shifts.
There was a lot of restrictions back in the day, like a lot of restrictions.
You had to be a certain alignment.
Even as recent in third and Pathfinder. Not Pathfinder. They got rid of it in Pathfinder, but 3.5 edition, you had to be lawful good, period, to play paladin. Period.
Right. Yeah, you have to be a certain alignment. Well, and like I said, even just for a ranger, right? Just for a ranger, you had to be a certain alignment. And if
neutral,
you
right?
shifted,
Typically
it was like a you had to be some version of neutral or something like that. And if you did something to alignment shift, which in other editions, in alignment shift in and of itself would be damaging, but if you did something to shift your alignment and they didn't play the alignment shift rules, they would at least play the, okay, well, this affects your class, and now you're no longer this class.
I actually really appreciate 5th edition's moving away from alignment as being such this rigid system. I love that paladins follow a code now. I like that you don't have to lean into the only the one like ramrod straight version of paladin that kind of has existed for many years. I love that they've really embraced all the different types. It's really good to me.
Yeah,
it allows for more storytelling potential.
I mean, I always liked the alignment thing, but I realized that you're right. At the end of the day, like we all kind of float around different things, but I think that it does apply to. I still think it's major in certain things, right? And maybe it's not alignment, but it is certain things. Like I think, like the idea of a druid being true neutral is like a cool aspect, and I think that if you move away from that, like what does that make you then?
Yeah.
Right. Like, how does this affect the mythos of what a druid is? Because like that makes sense, right? In the original text, the way it was written, back in the old days with the older editions, like it made sense why this character was this way, like why this class was this way, because this is
Yeah,
how this mattered.
well, it was part of the. It's part of the mythos, but you can build whatever mythos you want into your campaign world too. Like
Oh, of
D&D is a
course.
framework, so and that's
Of
something I think that
course, yeah.
people can forget. I know Mitch is going to be playing a nature-based character, so we're going to be dealing with the concept of what it means to be natural, neutral, whatever. He's definitely not neutral. I'll spoil that much. Like his character's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Like as far as like his take on like what make. I was explaining it to Ryan the other day. He's like, "Oh, he's like the druid that's actually written in the player's handbook as to the way people play druid nowadays." It's this force of nature is kind of what he's going to be going for. He's not starting as druid though. He's going to, I believe, be barbarian. Nate, we'll see how that plays out.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll get him on here hopefully, and he can tell us as much as he wants to tell us.
I'm going to probably be playing with the 5th edition rules. That'll be something like to tease. Like I have plans to do some more homebrew, some more concept, like we talked about with your fighting styles. I want to play with that aspect. I want to have something that's not written in the player's handbook be a part of your characters, and also be something to play off of. Like I really enjoyed as part of Dylan's arc that his warlock pact was up for grabs almost. Like he lost it and became a rogue. Like that was just what we decided. But also I had given him, like you said, the option to take that pact up, but under a different patron. Like the fact that could be traded around. The fact
even
that,
under the same patron.
Yeah, like
you gave him that option many times.
Yeah, like he could have taken it back. Avil threatened him to bond with him if Roy died. One, it would keep her alive, but like what would it have looked like if we had just turned him into a pact of Fae? Like, and that sort of thought, I would love to carry it over to other classes. Like the idea that you can change or evolve, not being tied down by what's written in the rule book itself. I found out that D&D Beyond will allow you to make feats, and you can just drop feats into any player you want, and feats can do things that aren't in the basic mechanics, which are great. So the pro tip, if you need to add something that like I don't know how to add this ability without rewriting a whole subclass, you can just make a feat, and you can just give people feats anytime in D&D Beyond if you use that program. It's great.
As the DM, you don't have to be like, oh, you earned the feat. It's time for a feat.
I don't have to worry about what level you are or whatever. Like I want to let's call them story-based rewards is something that I'm going to be doing in the next campaign. I want to do some stuff like that to y'all. That's going to be something that I'm excited to delve into and for you guys to unlock, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as we've discussed, as we're moving into this next campaign, a peek behind the curtain for everybody is that we've really been discussing who we are as a podcast, as a sort of company, who we are and what we represent. And I think that moving into the future, you'll be able to see who we are a little bit better. And what we've kind of decided we're representing is we're storytellers.
Yeah, we really want to lean into that. I've always been leaning into that low key because that's the way I like to DM. That's the way I like to play.
And I think I'm excited for how we demonstrate that and how that's going to be shown. Like you say, with these story elements, with the fact that we're going to go off the rails, we're going to go out of book.
Yeah,
rules is written, fuck them. Like we're going to figure this out.
I love it as a framework. It's a framework, but like the meat of the story, the meat of the way you play, it's ultimately up to you. There's no wrong way to play Dungeons and Dragons. Like, and that's the beauty of the game. You're supposed to take inspiration from everything you read, every other game you play. One of the things that's great about the current Adventure Zone right now is it is very obvious that Griffin McElroy learned a lot from playing Monster of the Week. He is applying the mentality of the Keeper, the way you're supposed to play the Keeper in Monster of the Week, to the way he DMs Dungeons and Dragons, and it's amazing. He's like you said before, it's about like it's not how they failed, it's like how well they succeeded, which is very Monster of the Week style of making rolls. It's great. I love it.
I'm truly enjoying it as well. And I'd love to. The way that I think that we have some of that, we've captured some of that sort of feel too, not necessarily in the same way, but this idea of like, let's incorporate other ideas into how we do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very exciting to me. And I hope that it's very exciting to our potential new listeners moving forward and our old listeners.
Yeah, I hope we're not boring you guys. I hope you stick around. We're going to be starting up. We're going to take all the lessons we learned over 150 episodes that we did in this hobby that we picked up, and we're going to keep doing it because we enjoy it, but also because you guys have been very loving and supportive. The Patreon subscribers that don't owe us anything, they're just giving us money. We don't give nearly enough back because we're very busy. It's something we're going to be working on in the future as well.
Yeah.
We love you guys for listening to us and downloading us,
Yeah.
sharing us. Like we said, we're awful at the social media game because we're just dudes. We're not artists, or we don't have a following that we brought along with us.
Right.
So like when you guys talk to us, engage with us, tell your friends, you're the fucking heroes.
You're
Like
the real heroes for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Because otherwise we would just be shouting into our echo chamber, making our little piece of artwork, and
Yeah.
if you study it, great. But like, I don't, we're going to try to be better about shouting ourselves out just because we're putting all this effort into it. But
right. And we're working on putting more effort into exposing ourselves in different ways. Obviously, none that'll get us put on a list. None that'll get us put on a list.
Oh, okay.
But putting ourselves out there in different ways and showing that we care and having fun and expanding our brand and being on the social media and all these things. We're working on it all. We want you to be a part of this great story that we tell, these series of stories that we tell. We want you to be a part of this world, and we want you to keep interacting, and we love the fact that you're here and listening. And I want to wrap this up by saying we hope that you're as excited as we are for the next story that we tell. And I hope that this has shown you that we are excited for it. And we're going to show you more and more.
I am regretting it already. I have way too many expectations of where this could go.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Worst thing for a dungeon master to have: drop all your expectations, leave them at the door.
This next stage of where we're gonna be is bigger, better, and hopefully more fun. So come along with us, without doubt. Once again, this is Jeff, and then of course over here we got Jameson Oxford.
Jameson Oxford, your dungeon master. I haven't said that in a while. It just felt good.
Yeah, your dungeon master, your best friend, your storyteller, your version of the grandpa in Princess Bride.
Yeah, dude, I love that.
Yes,
that's my favorite ever. Thank you. Please give me the little fedora and everything. That's the only time anyone's worn that hat and look good. I'm just gonna watch Princess Bride and try to fall asleep. That sounds dope.
Yeah, do that. It sounds great. Thank you for everybody who tuned in, and for those of you who didn't tune in live, keep in mind we will be doing this. This is a thing we'll be doing on the off weeks from the campaign.
We're gonna. I'm down to do it again. I think it'll be really fun to get. I think you should force everybody to get on here. They're all reluctant, but you're gonna
strong arm them.
We'll get the whip.
Spot a new one. So we're gonna get him involved.
He's not kidding.
I'm not.
Yeah, he's not kidding.
So we're definitely gonna get everybody involved. I'm gonna strong arm him into this, and I can't wait to share that with all of you. Like I said, if you tuned in live, thank you for being here. If you didn't, don't worry. Every other week.
No, I'm kidding.
Every other week on our Twitch. That's twitch.com/ Torchlit Tavern. I think that's how you get there, right? Is that how you do it?
I'm bad at these, but yes, it's Torchlit Tavern's twitch.tv/Torchlit Tavern. That's
there it is. Twitch.tv/Torchlit Tavern. Or you can just search Torchlit Tavern on the Twitch. Find us, follow us, and come enjoy this show every other week. And on the weeks that it's not this show, it's gonna be me DMing for Wacko Mundo. It's a funny world, and we try to have fun there. We try to tell stories. Until then, tell good stories. And if you're watching this on YouTube, just look out for more. Good night.
I guess. Have a good one. Thank you for joining us.